Hey there role players, Rhaegar here for another video. Today's video is going to be another video in my Dresden series covering the Dresden RPG on my channel. And today's topic is a breakdown of the character sheet for when you are trying to build your character. Hopefully this will help you figure out what you need to do, and where to start, and what all of it means. So, without further ado, let's begin. Now, to create a character, you first of all need to select a template. Now, the book has several different templates from which you choose from, and I will cover each of them in their own video because they deserve their own sort of standalone explanation, but that's how you start. You find the one that's most closest to what you want to go for and you build from there. There is a lot of flexibility with them, so don't feel they are restrictive because you can pretty much come up with anything just with a little bit of imagination. Now, in the character sheet itself, it primarily comes in two parts. You have the front sheet, which has a short form version of your aspects. It has your skills and also what refresh you've spent on powers and stunts, as well as a breakdown of your stress boxes, which we'll cover them in a bit more detail in a second. You've also got the second page, which is a more detailed breakdown of your character aspects. Now, unlike Fate Core, in Dresden you have 7 character aspects to work out. And they are the high concept, the trouble, then you've got the background aspect, then a rising conflict aspect, a first adventure aspect, then 2 guest stars aspects which you work out with the other players, which again I will cover them in more detail as we get to them in the video. So to begin, after choosing your template, I am going to start talking about your aspects because it follows on quite neatly. So for your high concept aspect, the very first one you should put down in your sheet has to include whatever template you are going for. Now, aspects, just in case you haven't watched my previous video, they are kind of like a sentence-ified tenet of your character. They sum up some kind of aspect, for want of a better word, of your character's personality. If you could think of this sheet as a thing, the aspect sheet on your character sheet is about who he is or whom she is, and your sort of skill and refresh sheet on your character sheet is about what he or she can do and what they have learned and what experience they have. So that's something a good summary to bear in mind. So the high concept, say for example, you decide you want to be an emissary of power as your starting template, and you want to be an emissary to some kind of Arthurian legend, then your high concept would be something along the lines of an emissary of the Fisher King, which is a template, and then it kind of describes an emissary of whom you are working with. Very easy once you know how. So, but you need a template before you can do that. Then you want your trouble aspect. Now, your trouble aspect has to be, it doesn't have to be wholly negative, but it has to be something that complicates your life. It has to be some kind of burden or ordeal that your character is going through in life. It could be something like alcoholism. It could be relationship problems with the family. It could be some kind of political situation with one of the factions, that maybe you're a maverick or an outcast or you're seen with suspicion. It has to be something that in the story is going to cause you problems, but also can work in your favour from time to time. Say you had an aspect of problems with authority, you could invoke that aspect to interrogate people who are in positions of authority. You can work it in your favour at times, but it is meant to be something that's going to cause you a bit of problems. Then you've got the background aspect. Now the background aspect is kind of like, okay, when your character was born, what is the situation with this family? What kind of situation were you born into? You were born into like a noble family, a faction of one of the well-known factions in the Dresdenverse. Did you grow up as an orphan? That sort of thing. Like, what shaped you as a before you became what you are today? What shaped you? What begun your journey? and how that affects you today. It could be a relationship with a parent. It could be an item that you've kept for all these years, like a lucky coin, or a book or something, for photos of friends from days gone by, something like that. It's something that shows where you come from. Then you've got the rising conflict aspect, and that is mainly, okay, you are this thing now, but how did you get there? What was the triggering point for you to become the thing you are? What made you become an emissary? Say, with that example, what pushed you in that direction? How did the circumstances at the time make you step up and become that thing? Make sense? Then you've got the first story aspect. And the first story aspect is, how, as this thing, did you go out in the world and make a change? What did you do? How did you meet new people? How has that shaped you since? Did you try and combat evil and found that evil infects you in the same way? Did you try and stand up for the truth and justice and find out the machinations of bureaucracy just trying to tear you down? Something like that. It's the first time that you are doing the thing as you are today. Then you've got the two guest starring aspects. Now that is generally worked out during like a sessions here, or when the group is getting together. These are stories that form aspects about what happened, how you came to know the other characters, what adventures did you go on, what kind of things did they do that helped you in the things that you do. And they have like a little kind of collaborative storytelling moment going on where you're guest starring in each other's background, and it's really cool. So you like help them out, they help you out. Maybe you cause complications. Maybe you're actually more of a bad guy to begin with in their background, but then you come to an understanding and move forward and become friends. These aspects are really cool, and I really enjoy doing them when running a Dresden campaign. A lot of fun. So 2 of them, that comes up with your 7 character aspects, and that generally nails down who your character is at the beginning of play, what they've been through, and their kind of tendencies and how they'll behave once the game begins. Very good way of knowing, a rule of thumb, look at your aspects, this is how my character would behave in this situation, as a kind of guiding light. Right, so then we move on to the kind of mechanical side of how your character is skilled and what experience they have and what they can actually do. So you've got the skill tree, which is, now depends on the GM and how many skill points he gives you. You can spend those skill points, when I talked about in my refresh video, is you're giving so many skill points to spend, and these are used by the skills. There's a skill list in the book, and what these do, these form the basis of, like, if you want to drive a car, you use your drive skill. If you want to shoot a gun, you use your gun skill, and you use the 40 dice, you roll the 40 dice, add the result onto your skill. Simple. But the key thing about the skill list is you have to build it in a certain way. As it talks about in the book, it has to be built like a pyramid. And what that means is that the top skill can, top row, so you've got average, you've got fair, you've got good, you've got superb, and these are the different levels going up of how good you are at something. You can't have the top one having more than the one beneath it. So, for example, if you had 3 skills at fair, you can't have 4 skills at good. It has to go down in a pyramid shape. It has to, the smallest collection of skills have to be at the top, the biggest collection of skills have to be underneath. This is to show that in life we have an array of different skills and talents, but only some of them we can really master in our lifetime, so we can get up there, but it takes practice and it takes time. And a lot of people go different ways about doing this, I've seen. Some people have 1 key skill at their top, then 2 underneath, and 3, then 4, and so on, to build a kind of 1 pinnacle skill that they're really good at, that's their go-to skill, and then they have more and more generalised skills. Perfect way of going about it. Then you also have people who will kind of try and focus their talents in a single area, so they may have 2 really high skills, say 2 at superb, then 2 at good, then 3 at fair, then 3 at average, something like that. Whereas they've really spent the skill points to get a couple of skills really high, and then they don't have as many skill points to spend on the rest of the skills, so they have less as the tree goes down. Hope that makes sense. That's a key point. It has to, top skills must be less than the ones underneath. Otherwise the character is invalid. Okay, then you've got the space in the character sheet which talks about stunts and superpowers or supernatural powers. And these are where you spend your refresh. You spend your refresh on customising your character in buying the mortal stunts, which we'll cover in another video for itself. So some stunts is a whole separate issue. And you've got superpowers. Again, I'll cover them in a separate video. And that's where you buy them, that's where they go, and that affects your refresh, which again, I've said before in a previous video, your refresh is given to you by your GM, how many you've got to spend, and you can spend up to the last point, you can't spend the last point. Very important to remember that, you must not spend your final refresh. Then you have your refresh, then you have your stress box area. Now these basically inform you how hardy, how much mental fortitude and how much social kind of impression your character can make. Now these are keyed off 3 skills. That means you're starting physical stress, you're starting mental stress, and you're starting social stress are tied to these 3 skills, and they are important to think about when building your skill tree. And they are, for physical stress, it's the endurance skill. For the mental stress, it's your conviction skill. And for social stress, and in case that sounds a bit confusing, I know some people are confused about social stress, it's your presence skill. And social stress is things like persuasion, negotiation. It's like getting a reputation for being easy to kind of talk down, that sort of thing. And in factions, that can be very important. So that's a very basic breakdown of the character sheet and how it works. Your stress boxes can also be affected by supernatural powers and possibly stunts, depending on what you've bought, but those 3 skills are how you get your beginning stress box allocation, and that shows how much punishment you can take. Okay, so that was quite a quick and kind of thorough, quick and exhaustive list of all the things on your character sheet. I hope that was helpful, and I look forward to bringing you more Dresden videos in the future. Hope this one's been informative, and I'll catch you guys later. Take care.